Don't eat more legumes, seeds, nuts, and grains without knowing this. Many people have already heard about phytic acid, anti-nutrients, and phytases, but there's little information about what the habits in the kitchen are. The habits we need to start adopting so that this doesn't affect our diet and our nutrition. Phytic acid is mostly found in the outer part of seeds, cereals, legumes, and nuts. And it is responsible for protecting the stored energy in the seed that the plant will need to grow. Is phytic acid a natural defense? What it does is protect the seed from possible predators such as insects, birds, herbivorous animals, and even humans. When we talk about seeds, for example, we have what we call seeds such as flax seeds, sesame seeds, and chia seeds. But legumes like peas, chickpeas, and beans are also seeds. Or for example, what we call nuts like almonds, walnuts, hazelnuts, and so on are also seeds. And for example, cereals like rice, rye, and oats are also seeds. Let's see what happens when we eat seeds. When we eat peas, like these that are taken from the plant, they're small since I don't have bigger ones yet, but this, peas directly, nothing happens. Peas, just like tiradics, can be eaten raw without any problem. Now we need to be careful and change our habits with everything else. When we eat seeds, legumes, cereals, or nuts in the stomach and intestine, phytic acid is able to form complexes to bind to minerals, those minerals that we ingest in our diet, especially to iron, zinc, calcium, magnesium, and manganese. So these minerals become insoluble or harder to digest. They are no longer available to the body. They will not nourish us. But the good news is that there are several ways to reduce that phytic acid: by soaking, by sprouting, and by fermentation. A long and slow chewing of food also manages to reduce a significant percentage of phytic acid. Before I explain that and how to do it right, I want to talk to you a bit more. All of this surely makes you say, oh, how many things do you have to keep in mind to eat well? It seems like such a challenge, and sometimes it gets tiring. That's why now I'm going to tell you something very interesting that will help you relax. The only way to suffer from a mineral deficiency due to phytic acid in the medium or long term is to consume large amounts of foods that contain it. That's why people who consume large amounts, for example, vegan diets, vegetarian diets, diets like the ones we follow, where we try not to consume flour, so by not consuming processed wheat flour. By choosing to eat differently, for example, by making our own bread using flour made from sesame seeds, almond seeds that we process ourselves, and so on. That's when we really need to pay attention to this. That's why, since we mainly eat this way, we had to change our habits to reduce that phytic acid and avoid suffering from mineral deficiencies. It's easy, you just need to change the habit. Let me say again that phytic acid is reduced by soaking seeds, sprouting them, or fermenting, because the seeds themselves contain enzymes called phytases, which are responsible for this breakdown. So phytic acid doesn't harm us. In the case of legumes, it's also good to soak them for another reason, which is that they will also release polysaccharides, which are the cause of gas. White rice and flour don't contain phytic acid, practically because of their refining process. That process causes them to lose all the outer layers, and that's where the phytic acid goes, but also a large percentage of minerals and fiber. So what we're left with is practically an empty food. It's not going to give us energy. These are foods that weigh us down. We feel overwhelmed. We feel full, like really full, but it's more like discomfort, not a good feeling. I'm satisfied but energetic and heading to work. That way of eating doesn't make us drowsy. When we soak it, the enzyme phytase is activated. The same thing happens when we sprout it, ferment it, or when we make, for example, sourdough. The phytase itself, which is in the grain, is responsible for breaking down phytic acid. We recently made a detailed video on producing your own sprouts and germinated seeds. I'll leave it for you on a card here. When you can, take a look at it, because it's truly exceptional to nourish yourself this way with sprouts and germinated seeds. Because nutrients increase and anti-nutrients which block mineral absorption are lost. Something very important. In the case of soaking, once you have left it to soak for 24 hours and the next day you are going to use it. You have to throw away that soaking water because that's where the anti-nutrients or phytic acid will remain. Yeah, throw away the water, rinse it, and then you can use it for cooking. Or in the case of nuts, to eat them directly. Many indigenous peoples of America used to soak their nuts, then let them dry, and then roast them. Because of course it's delicious to roast them and eat them. But this is the best way for us to get more minerals from the food and not end up feeling bad or developing a deficiency. Why don't they lose that phytic acid when you roast them? Phytic acid is resistant to heat at the normal cooking temperatures we usually use in the kitchen. But heat does break down phytases. As I just mentioned, phytase is responsible for breaking down phytic acid. That's why, for example, it's better when we buy oats. It's better for us to buy whole peeled oats. Here, for example, they're called traditional oats when they come whole and peeled like this. So its phytase enzyme will still be active, and when we soak the oats to remove the phytic acid, these enzymes will also do their job. Soaking helps dissolve the carbohydrates that are hard to digest. For example, at home, when we soak oats, we use 1 or 2 cups. That's what we're going to prepare the next day. We add water and, for example, an activator. In our case, we use lemon a lot because lemon helps the fermentation process. And all of this makes the phytic acid break down more quickly so that it's more effective. So for example, when we eat rice, we eat yamani rice or brown rice. That way, we make sure it has the minerals we want to consume, that we want to take advantage of to give us energy. We soak it the night before and add about 2 tablespoons of lemon per cup of whatever we use, whether it's rice, oats, or whatever we're going to soak. The next day we strain, remove the water, rinse, and add fresh water. For example, if we're going to cook it. Another interesting thing to know is that, for example, in the industry, when they want to speed up that decomposition process, their goal is to achieve the highest possible phytase activity, and that's why they usually add phytase from isolated bacteria or fungi. But at home, we, in a homemade, artisanal way, also have the possibility to speed up those decomposition times or to optimize those processes. And we do this by combining the plants that have higher phytase activity with those that have lower activity. For example, the phytase in buckwheat or rye has high activity, and the phytase in corn, wheat, and oats has low activity. So, for example, when we want to speed up that activity, for instance, in oats, we can add a little bit of buckwheat, in the soaking process, let's say. In the case of people with celiac disease, for example, who want to speed up the chickpea process, they can add buckwheat because buckwheat doesn't have gluten. In the case of people who don't have any gluten intolerance issues, they can also use rye as that accelerator. Well, family, that's all. I hope this information is really useful for you. I loved making this video. It's very simple. As you can see, the process of breaking down this phytic acid, which is the anti-nutrient, as we already discussed, it's the 24-hour soaking that helps it. If you want to speed up or improve the process, what you can do is ferment it, and with the lemon juice, you're already fermenting. And if not, you can also add, for example, probiotics like kefir or sauerkraut. Or we can also use plants that have a high phytase activity, such as buckwheat or rye. What's fascinating is that you can sprout and eat the sprouts too. Not only do we greatly reduce phytic acid, but the nutrients we're going to eat also increase in a really powerful way. And as we always tell you, if you want to and if you can and you have a little time, start trying it out. By having a garden and growing your own food from the earth, for example, Nina, here I have a carrot and I could easily eat this, which are the leaves directly from the earth. And here I have peas for a snack. They're still growing, but they're already ready to eat. For example, you have no idea how delicious it is to eat peas. Plant. It's exquisite. They're still small, but it's a delicacy. It fell on me. All of this is health. Now all the food is being processed. It's not that we have to be so picky now just to eat. And a lot of people sometimes say to us, for example, we've eaten like this our whole lives and we've never had a problem. And we ate flour and we ate this and we ate that. It's true. Back in my mom's and my grandma's time, there was no problem. But what's going on? Those foods didn't go through what they go through now with genetic modifications, where there are alterations, for example, in the case of wheat with gluten. They didn't, for example, suffer from the poisons they spray with now. Not from chemical fertilizers, which change everything and alter seed composition. That's why it's important to return to the land, even just in the backyard, eating little peas. They are a delicacy. Raw peas are a delicacy. Let's add small plants to the backyard, anything fresh, green, and full of chlorophyll. If it's organic or agroecological, even better, and that we can add it to our dishes. That will increase and boost our defenses, and our whole body will work and function much better. So, I encourage you, keep working on your doors, even in a small space. Very recently, we made a video about how to grow mini vegetables that are packed with powerful nutrition, meaning you can get a lot of nutrients from just a little bit. And it's ideal for people who don't have a large place to plant or who don't have space to plant and have a small garden. Anyway, I'll mention again that during the video there will be a card for that video. And if not, I'll leave it for you at the end so you can go watch it. It's really worth it. It's good to start adding other types of food and nutrition. Like more mindful. It's not just a phrase, it's really about becoming aware. We need to learn to nourish ourselves or relearn, because we got very used to processed foods, to buying at first in the grocery store, then later in the supermarket. And all those foods are empty. And since they're empty, they don't nourish us. And since they don't nourish us, we don't have energy. And when we don't have energy, we force our bodies to function with different stimulants, with coffee, with cigarettes, with whatever, but we still force it to function. And that's why our little body keeps feeling worse, getting sick, not wanting to live, or having difficulties, whether physical or mental. That's why nutrition is very important, as well as meditation. Being calm, being with family, with friends, with loved ones, with affection. We're going to leave the topic here. I hope this material we've brought you in this video is very helpful for you. I send you a kiss, a huge and warm hug. And of course, if you like the video, leave us a like, that helps us a lot. Share it and let us know in the comments what you think and what you need to know. We will be paying attention to your comments.